It is 5:30 p.m. and we are in open session. We do have a properly posted agenda. We do have a quorum. At this time, we are going to be moving to closed session for 2C. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including superintendent or board member, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee. So at this time at 5:30, we are adjourned to closed session. All right, we are back in open session at 6:05 p.m. We are at number 4, the invocation. If Matt, if you will lead us in the invocation, if everybody will please stand
Will
up.
you stand with me? Father God, we are thankful tonight for the opportunity together to do the business of this incredible school district. We're grateful for each and every person who is here tonight. We're thankful for the many ways that you protect us, protect our students and our families. We pray that you would continue to bless us as a district, the work that we do. We pray that you would bless the work that we do here this evening, and that we would all have safe travels returning home. And we pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you. If you'll remain standing, we are going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We've got some help this evening from Carson Elementary. We've got Lincoln and Liam Bussey. Liam is a second grader. I'm sorry, and Luna? No, did I miss?
Lincoln?
Okay.
No, Luna. Lincoln.
Okay. Somebody got to. Sorry. Okay, about that. Liam and Lincoln, and their parents are Robin and Sean Bussey. So, yes. So, and y'all are welcome to come up if you want to too. You can stand right there. So, guys, if we'll face the flag, if y'all will face the flag and put your right hand over your. There you go. You're good. You're good. Okay. You ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do you want to get a picture? Or? Okay, so we're moving on to item number 6, the recognition. We've got a lot of people to recognize tonight. We've had a lot of success all over the district, so this is the funnest part of the night, I promise you that. So the first we're going to, I'll actually turn over to you, Monique, and you can take it from here.
Wonderful, thank you. We have, like you said, a number of students to recognize for just really exemplary performance. First, we're going to recognize our choir students who are actually seated in the back right, my right, stage left, I think. I'm not a theater student, but I think that's what it's called. And I'm going to call them one by one, and they're going to come to the front. So first, we have Catherine Urasek. Lucas Britt, Mason Payne, Leonel Corona, I'm sorry. Yes, please. Levi Johnson, and Isaiah Rodriguez. And last but not least, their wonderful choir director, Chris Urasek. And I'm going to move swiftly through this next list because they've got a basketball game to get to. Kaylee Agee, Kylie Allison, Landry Barnes, Bella Chandler, Lila Doan, Aubrey Duncan, Shy Harris, Bailey Hughes, Reagan Joyner, Ava Magliola, Catherine Mallory, Giselle Martinez, Hannah Milliman, Faith Pacheco, Nadia Rodriguez, Brianna Went, as well as Marley Ballard, Sophie Davis, Maggie Dunn, Kenley Hale, Emmy Mercer, Addison Merchant, Peyton O'Connor, Kaylin Parker, Sage Remington, Chloe Stacy, Rayleigh Thrasher, almost there, Pearson Paul, Amy Wilkins, Ella Noel Young, and Cherie Hosevar. Okay, we got one last one, Ramsey Johnson. Woohoo! Yep, you can go ahead and do that. Do you want to do first? Do you want the board to shift that way? Yeah, I think a little would help. And while they get into place, we're really just immensely proud of these students. These young ladies have gone to state, where they earned 8th place, which I think is an improvement from last year, from 18th, 10 whopping placements. So we're immensely proud of them and just excited for all that they've accomplished. We've got a lot to celebrate tonight. Okay. All right. Congratulations, everyone. Okay, we're going to give our cheer team a moment to get out. They are, as I noted, have a basketball game, and they're so great at always supporting all of our teams.
Thank y'all.
And last but not least, we have a special one. So I'm new to the district, but I have been informed that we had our first district-wide spelling bee for all of the elementary campuses. And so we had a first winner for that first spelling bee. Her name is Camden Knight, and she's sitting just behind me. Camden, do you want to come up with your family? And while she gets up, let me tell you, I was very much stressing over this certificate of recognition, making sure all the words were spelled properly. So Camden, forgive me if not. Okay, one more. Yeah, I will. Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, we're all done. Thank you, Camden. Congratulations.
All right, it's nice and quiet in here now. We're at number 7, public forum. We did not have anyone sign up tonight, so we will skip that and go to number 8, the superintendent report. Dr. Rue?
Yes, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be able to recognize students for their accomplishments and all of their hard work, and there will be more to come. Did I not do it right?
Yeah.
Let me just get it over here. This week, the 13th and 14th, our swim team is headed to state. They'll be at Northeast ISD. The boys earned 15 state berths and were named the Region 1 4A champions. We're really proud of them. The girls' team took 4th in regionals, and 5 of their swimmers are going to state as well. So congratulations to them. We'll have them back at a future board meeting. The girls' basketball team earned District 7 4A title. They're looking to make a playoff berth, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for them. The high school choir, while you had members of the choir here today, 17 students just this past week qualified for state competition. And we're looking forward to seeing 17. So we're looking forward to seeing them back for recognition. 4 of the students have earned the right to compete in the International Thespian Festival held at the Indiana University in Bloomington. So Decatur is making itself known. And then one other thing I'd like to point out, this is a district news that we now have live on our district webpage a legislative page that gives a lot of detailed information that we hope will be useful to our community and to our staff, parents, community, and staff. So I encourage you to look at that on the district webpage. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rue. Number 9, the consent agenda. You guys have got that in your packet about personnel, and then minutes from the January 13th, 2025 regular meeting, and the minutes from the February 5th, 2025 special meeting. Is there any questions or discussion on that? Either of those matter? If not, someone will make a motion to approve this, the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented to the board.
I've got a motion from Nate. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Jeremy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Number 10, the public hearing. And 10A, the Texas Academic Performance Report for 2023-2024, Dr. Wooten.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay, so in front of you is a packet with a paper clip. It is rather thick, and once again, I apologize for the tree killing. But when you go through some of the data, it's real hard to sometimes do it off of your iPad, so I did want you to see it. The PowerPoint, you have almost like a glossary of terms, because there's a lot of information that is in the taper overall that you have. After that, there is a presentation that is going to summarize the taper. And then also, just as an FYI, the academic information, we went over that for end of the year data. But remember, when we went over that, I always said preliminary, because Texas hadn't cleaned up everything, totaled up everything. Now this is the final report. So the data is, from an academic perspective, is not different, but there's more of it now, like your attendance and student enrollment and things of that. So that's what I'm going to go over, because legally that's what we need to do. So just an overview. In this presentation, as well as the actual full taper report, it's posted on our website as we speak. So anybody can come in, check it out, click on any of these links. All of it's ready to go. One thing just to make note of is that as of right now, for 2023 and 2024, A through F ratings remain pending and subject to change based on judicial rulings, because that's where we still are. And then this is directions for anybody that is interested in accessing the taper report and how to get on it from our district. And then just links to the actual TEA webpage. And then these are all the components that the taper report goes over. And so I'm not going to read through all those, but I just listed it out to make it easier and user-friendly for our parents. And so one of the things with the STAR performance, and I think it might be the very last page in that big packet of yours, I just made a copy of what we went over and gave you like a summarized version, broken down by grade level and campus and things of that nature. But one thing that the state did do is they do like an overall. So they do an all grades, all subjects. And so this is the chart that just shows for us, for where our kids are, we are 76% of our students are achieving a passing score, which means approaches meets their masters, and 24% are not. They did not meet. And then this is the breakdown for your master's meets and approaches. And then we also broke it up by ELA reading and for math, and that is in the taper report, as is. We just put it in a table form for you to make it easier. You'll notice on here with the breakdown that you can see the state is the red line and the dotted is Region 11. So we're above in our reading with the state in Region 11. And then you can't see the red line because the red and the dotted are completely even, and that's where we are as well. For our scores for math. And the same thing there. What you will see is social studies is an area in which we were below where the state and region was. For state, we were 1 percentage point below, and for region, we were 2 percentage points below. And then one of the things it's pretty cool that TA has is you can go on to this, and these are just screenshots, but you can actually look up our scores and everything with our scores, and it will give you various data charts, and they'll put it, different graphs is how they'll set this up. So it's really made for every learner possible. And so these are just some of the samples that I put on there that parents can see as well. And you can, when you look at this, you can see 2018 and 19, 20 to 21. So you can actually go by each year, and it will present it in this manner. This is just another way to do it. When we talk about Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction, that's what's going to close that gap between your blue and your purple for getting your meets to be higher and your masters to move up as well. And once again, this is one of those charts that TA has. And this one was really interesting too, and I purposely put it in here. At first, I think when you look at it, it's very overwhelming, because you see all the different waves, but I did it for a reason, because this is a day in the life of a teacher. So this is what her class is made up of, and depending upon the content that she's teaching or he's teaching, you can see where if they have one particular TEK, you can see where they are at meets or masters, or they go up or they go down. And the very next week, it could be the complete opposite effect depending upon the content, because everybody has strengths and weaknesses and challenges, and so it just fluctuates. But I did think it was a pretty cool graphic to kind of show what it looks like for your kiddos and for parents to kind of see that too. And this is like for academic growth. So there's different components, and this is the analytics that they have for that. That's just a bigger version because I'm blind, and I just did it that way in case any of you were. Some other information that the taper covers is our graduation rates. And so this is just our attendance, 21, 22, 22, 23, and where we were. Chronic absenteeism, just so you know what defines that, is if you're missing 10% or more. So that's the breakdown of just, as opposed to just being absent, as opposed to chronically absent. And both of these charts say the same thing, just in different ways. So college, career, and military ready. These are different charts also that TEA offers and breaks down CCMR. What you can see is that we are moving upwards, starting at 52%, and now we're at 63% in each one of these areas. The other thing that was big that we did last year, and so we'll see more of a result because we're a little bit, it's like lag data for some of this stuff, with TSIA, is that we require that now. So all our sophomores get it for reading, and then our juniors get it for math, mostly because by that point they have all of their math taken. And so far that's proving to be very fruitful for our district. And then college, career, military ready, this is your overall up at the top. And then you can see it's broken also down by college ready and then just career and military. Once again, same data, just presented in different ways. And then we are also required to go over longitudinal graduation data. And so that just goes through the different years from 4 years. So you're going to see class of 2022, 5-year extended, and then class of 2021. Understand this is the data that we're able to track. As you can see, there's still some that we are unable to completely track. And then district, just our information as far as student ethnic distribution, and it's a comparison between district and state. So you can see where that is. And then student demographics, economically disadvantaged, your EB population, students with disciplinary placements and at risk for district and state. And then just our enrollment overall for each of the programs. And then the teacher's years of experience and just the breakdown of that. And beginning means when you, as a teacher, you start off at year 0. And so that's what the beginning means. And then when you get to 1 through 5, that's your difference there. For district and state, and you'll see that we're pretty comparable. And then some of the additional reports now that is required for us to go over is an annual report on violent and criminal incidences at campuses in the district. And then the types of those incidences that they determine is violating code of conduct, criminal mischief, terroristic threat, bullying, vaping, the e-cigarettes is one that we have to track, and then just other controlled substances. When you see a negative 999, that is how the state basically says the number's too small without it becoming identifiable. And so that's what that means. But we had 346 incidences of the code of conduct and 19 with the e-cigarette. So I do feel DAP is a good deterrent. It might not equate to wanting to take a swig of that. And then we also document out-of-school suspension, in-school suspension, Off campus, which is that DAP placement, and these are the numbers that go along with that. Once again, the negative 999 just means it's not that there weren't incidences, it was just too little to really make note of, which is a good thing. And then higher education with taper, this is performance with post-secondary institutions. And so when you look at this, you can see that this is what we were able to track, but there are still some that are non-trackable and then some that weren't found. So, but this is what we are able to kind of pull from our sources through TEA. And then the PEAMS financial standards reports, you can click on that and you can see ours. It's basically what Cindy went over for Student First. It's the same information. She actually goes over components of this every month. And that's it. Any questions?
Okay.
Nope.
Thank you, Dr. Wooden.
Thank you.
Number 11, discussion items. This is the first reading, 11A, first reading of TASB Local Update 124. Do you want me to read all that?
Yeah, and thank you.
Dr. Rue.
Thank you very much. This is the first reading. There are 4 local policies that have adjustments and wordsmithing to them based on changes in legal policy. This should be one of the last updates you'll see before the 89th legislative session creates opportunity for new legal updates at the conclusion of the session. So just wanting you to be aware of those. You'll notice they're just wordsmithing. That's really all they are. Nothing substantive changed on any of them.
All right. Any questions on that? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 12, action items. 12A, consider and take possible action regarding purchasing of additional buses. This is something that we discussed at the last board meeting. And
Yep, I'll get us started and come on up.
you can go ahead and come on up. Thank you, Ms. Watson.
You can come up and fill in as well. So, as you know, the district's bus fleet is old, and some of our buses are 20 years of age. And Mr. Mazak, if you feel the need to step up, you are welcome to do so. We had initially brought to you 3 additional buses that would allow us to minimize and bring in under 1 hour the bus route time for any one student to go to school. We do have a 4th bus that, as you are aware, had a fan that overheated, caused a fire on that bus, and has put it out of commission. We anticipate it more than likely will be, our insurance will total the bus and we'll need to replace one. So that's why you see 4 here. The recommendation that I have made to you is that we look at this from the standpoint that a reimbursement resolution allows the district to initiate the purchase of the buses, and at the reimbursement resolution be able to reimburse the district's fund balance through a bond election. Now, we've also, in looking at other options that would be available to the district, have another opportunity. Rather than financing the buses now, this gives the community an opportunity to recognize the need for an entire repurpose of the fleet, to bring that fleet up to date through a bond program, and of course meet the other needs that are available in the district. Should that not happen, the district is able to issue tax maintenance notes that allow the fund balance to be replaced, and you finance, and basically you're financing them after the fact. So you can be totally reimbursed, make your fund balance whole, which you would, and that falls under the reimbursement resolution as well. So you have an opportunity to share with the community and give them that chance to support the very real needs of the district that cannot be met through maintenance and operations. $150,000 bus is 2 teachers that year. So we really need to be able to do this through through bond funds. Yet the district can take it through fund balance and then come back with a tax maintenance note to extend that debt over time should it need to at a later date. So that's why you see my recommendation there is that you authorize the purchase of these buses through fund balance and not utilizing the reimbursement resolution mechanism that's available to you. Cindy?
You
I
said
did it, huh? Okay, all right.
You
So
said
we-
everything.
Questions?
Unless they have any questions.
We had asked about leasing. Was that not a viable option for us to go with?
Lease purchase or
Just
or
leasing.
finance them?
Yeah, now, the leasing ends up coming out of your M&O. If you do that, you have to pay for it out of M&O. And we just don't have the resources at this juncture to make payments out of M&O. By putting it through either a bond or a tax maintenance note, you're able to pay for it through those bond funds first. That's preferable. The tax maintenance note allows you to toggle debt over a 10-year period, which makes it a little easier. But the leasing, the only thing you can do there is take it out of M&O, and for every, a new teacher with salary and benefits is what, $67,000?
Probably 65, 67, somewhere around there.
$67,000. So those are people we can't have in classrooms if we're doing it the other way.
So what happens if we do not pass a bond?
Then you have the option. You go ahead.
So that's what happens. The reimbursement resolution would basically push out financing the buses like the financing schedule that's in there until December of '26. So then at December of '26, you have a couple of opportunities to pass a bond. If a bond still has not passed, then at that point, the board can enact the reimbursement resolution and do maintenance tax notes to reimburse fund balance if needed, depending upon school funding and what school finance happens, to see where we're at that point.
Right. So what I believe will serve the district well is to mitigate your risk to maintenance and operation cost by giving that community the opportunity to step and say, we understand it, we know what you need, we understand the bus caught on fire, we see the real need for transportation for our students, and work through that. Then if that's not successful, you can still finance them over time through the board's use of tax maintenance notes.
Will we do, when we do go out for a bond, will this be a separate proposition?
No?
No, not by doing it this way, no.
So we won't have buses set aside separately and
No.
They are not required to be set aside separate in a separate proposition.
can we?
I think you can separate out
I mean, you
anything
can separate
you
at
would
that time
want
anything
to.
you choose to. But usually what's required by law to be separated out are athletic facility enhancements. That's required to be separated out. I don't know that anything else is required to
I
be
think
separated
possibly
out.
fine arts.
Fine arts, yeah.
So this would give us essentially 3 shots at a bond.
Well, if-
November,
well-
then May, then maybe November of '26,
It-
possibly.
Timing is everything.
Because you have 18 months, but it
Every-
will really buy an extra couple of months.
Well,
depending on when we do
So
this.
the goal is to order the buses now.
Yeah.
Get them in as late as we can in July. Then 60 days after we actually cut a check for the buses, then do the reimbursement resolution. And then it's 18 months after the date that you do the reimbursement resolution to reimburse the fund balance and to pass a bond.
Yeah.
So if you time that, you're going to look at September. So that would get you November's, May's, another November, if I've added my months up correctly. And then that would also give you time after the November bond to actually fund the bonds, to have the money to pay back to the general fund.
So
So
this,
timing is everything.
yeah, this is really pretty good news, because we felt like before you'd have to do something separate as a separate proposition, and now you don't
now
need
you
to.
don't have
It's
to do
just
that.
part of the long-term cost of operating a district, these major project costs, whether it's life cycle maintenance, chillers at schools that, cost $500,000, $600,000 or more to replace versus, all of this is part of the bond. Now, in your communication, you break out exactly what that bond has in it, but you don't make each one a separate proposition.
Sometimes I worry when we group too many things together that, things that we really need, I just don't want it to end up looking like,
Right.
Washington DC, where we're like, oh, we're gonna stick this in here and this in here,
Yeah.
but we really need this. That's I've heard
I
people
think
in the
that can
community
be
saying,
determined.
having that concern.
I think that can be determined whenever the board actually calls a bond.
Well,
As
and when
many-
you decide to form a bond committee
Mm-hmm.
that can make all those decisions, and then, of course, communication is key, helping people understand what, and being totally transparent with this is what's in it. But there's time to make those decisions. Yeah. So for today, what we're bringing to you is authorizing this purchase, which would then come back to you next month in the form of a budget amendment, because we wanted to define what mechanism would we use, come back to you as a budget amendment, and then somewhere in July, the buses arrive, we pay for them, and the reimbursement resolution gets done as close to the mid-September as you can make it.
Yes.
To get you 20 months for future bond referendums.
On your schedule, you're showing a 5-year note, 7-year note, and then a 10-year for 8 buses. What was that rationale for? What was that discussion
Well,
about?
previously at our last board meeting, there was a request to look at 8 buses. What would that cost? What would that look like? I think that it's important to share with the community that the district cannot continue to try to solve problems by tapping into its daily operating expenses. They're too great, and they can't be met that way. And give the community an opportunity to support a bond, because that's really the only way you can get these major pieces paid for and done.
What is the district recommending between the 5-year note and the 7-year note?
Now, this is what you're seeing here, Cindy. He's asking about the difference between a 5 and a 7. If you went out, this is all tax maintenance note. So you would, at that time, would have to decide, do you want to do it over 5, 7, or 10 years?
So we're not going to make that decision tonight.
No. And we're just asking tonight that you would authorize these purchases through fund balance, and that's first step. Then we'd come back with a budget amendment, and then come back with each piece as it rolls out over the next several months.
The determination for 5 or 7 years wouldn't be done until December of +26. And then it'd be whatever interest rates had changed since then at that time.
There's not a lot of choice. We're in a rock and a hard place here, and we have to provide buses that are safe. And
Right.
I don't know, Kyle, if you're going to show later on as a presentation, it's the average fleet, I believe, is a little over 10 years, and then maximum is 20. Are you going to be presenting that in a little bit? And so, this is, if we don't do something now, obviously that average fleet age is going to go up pretty rapidly, so not much choice.
Right. And remember, in your fund balance, both mechanisms allow you to reimburse the fund balance. If a bond passes, or you use tax maintenance notes. And that's super critical, because we are looking at a legislative session that has yet to change anything about the 2019 allocation per student. None of the bills have any changes to that allocation per student that have been filed to date. So, doing everything you can to protect the funding you have for maintenance and operations is critical.
Kyle, will you also include what we're gonna project savings by having new buses? Getting rid of, I would assume, the oldest, but it's not always the oldest. There may be a different one that we need to get rid of due to how much money we've already spent on it, and I'm assuming you're tracking that, or we have been?
Yeah, we're tracking the actual costs in real time on our buses per bus, and actually every part of the bus too. We will save an O&M cost by using the bond to purchase capital expenditures or improvements like this. Then our O&M costs go down because we're not spending it on repairing the buses. I think we've spent about $50,000 in the last 5 months just fixing buses, and that's what the data shows.
Well, part of the reason why I'm asking is for me to make a decision on 4 or 8 buses, for us to understand, can we justify going to 8 buses and shortening down, instead of doing buses over 20 years to get our fleet redone, then we can shorten that window down. So I'm just trying to see what the offset would be there.
If you went to 8 buses now, you would be looking at, see, this is 4 buses, $600,000. So 8 buses would be $1.2 million. That would bring our fund balance well below 2 months' operating expenses. And we don't have the cash flow. Yeah, that's why it needs to go to a bond. So my recommendation is do the 4 you need right at the moment. Get the community support you for the rest, and get your fund balance whole through one of the 2 mechanisms available to you. And that will give you a start. But this is a message that I think people understand and are beginning to realize is real. And there's just not another funding mechanism available to districts for this magnitude of cost.
When will we know what the insurance is going to do with the bus that got on fire?
We're working on the claim now. It'll be cash value, which the cash value is not a whole lot.
20 years old.
It's
Yeah, that bus is 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not going to get much out of that.
No, I don't think we're going, that's why I'm saying here, you might get a little bit. Maybe
Sounds
it'll
like my
cover
insurance.
1 month's worth of repairs. Yeah. You don't, you really, I mean, this is, a bond program is the only real mechanism to fund this type of need for the district.
I guess my last question is, if we have, a year or 2 from now, and we don't have a bond, and we're going to obviously have to figure out a way to pay for it, and we need more buses, can we do another one of these? Is that something is this one and done, or can we?
another reimbursement
I
resolution?
mean, if we have to, worst case.
You could do as many,
Many as you-
many of, as.
I'm not saying I want to, just
No,
curious
but
how that works.
so say next year you come along and okay, we've got to buy 4 more. It would be the same process all over again. And so then so then you would have to keep track, okay, so the 18 months on the purchase made now, and then you'd have to track the 18 months on the purchase that you make next year.
Right, just in
And
case
it
something
would
happens
just
to
be
another
in
bus.
it would just be in a revolving.
Yeah. But this is a crucial point in time. The district is not financially able to solve its own problems through maintenance and operations costs. You want teachers in classrooms and electricity to work and pay for fuel for the buses to bring the kids to school. While Decatur has been very fortunate in years past, it was able to do some of solving its own problems through maintenance and operations, such as renovations to Carson. It just really can't continue to do that anymore. It's not there.
So I just want to be clear, we're talking about 4 buses right now. And then when we put out a bond, we can ask for another 4 buses.
Oh, you can replace the fleet.
Or a new
can
fleet. I mean, a
replace
new
the
fleet
entire
would be
fleet.
great.
Right.
Yeah.
But just start with 4 and then probably ask for
Yeah,
more
this
in a bond.
meets the immediate need, and it allows the community time to support you for a bond election.
And
In the past bonds, we've put the whole fleet in the past bonds. So it's been like 26 buses on the previous bonds is what we've asked for. I think it's like 26.
We have 37 in the fleet, counting everything. Yeah.
But for this purpose, we are not talking about the blue buses. We're talking about yellow route buses is what we're
Right.
looking at. No,
Right.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? If not, if somebody would please make a motion.
Mr. President authorized the purchase of 4 buses from the fund balance, utilizing a reimbursement resolution expressing official intent to reimburse the cost of the project.
Second. All right, I've got a motion from Chief Campbell and a quick second from Matt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm the next one, so I'm just staying.
Oh, okay, sure. Yes, okay.
And there are many from the crowd.
He doesn't want another fire at his school.
No, in front of his
Okay, we're moving on to 12B, consider and take possible action regarding engaging Snow Garrett Williams CPAs for fiscal year 2024-2025 audit report.
This is the standard engagement letter that we do every February to re-engage Snow and Garrett. They start their field work probably around June, July, is to get them on board and get them with their schedule.
Somebody have any questions?
How often do we do RFQs for this particular scope of work? Do we look at other sources at all? Or?
I don't know we haven't done one while I was here, so I don't know what the pattern or the
We haven't, I think they've used Snow and Garrett for probably the last 15 or 20 years.
Is it good to have a relationship like that? Should all contracts be looked at from time to time?
It's the board's
That's it.
preference. Some people prefer, because they have the continuity, they have the history with the district. Most places, when you get an auditor that you like, you stick with them, but it's.
In your prior experience, did you do
pretty much kept with the
RFQs?
same, unless we became dissatisfied with them in some way. Otherwise, we just kept with the same auditor. Now, just like with any other case, there's nothing wrong with about every 5 to 8 years looking up and saying who else would be out there. But that would be something that you could do during the year next year.
I would just want to, think it's $47,200. It's a third of a bus. I just think we should be checking all contracts every so often. We should have some sort of schedule. I don't know. I don't know if it can be done cheaper or not.
Yeah. Well, and wouldn't be bad in the next year for you to work with your new superintendent and identify a schedule perhaps through business office of timely reviews and what would be the cycle of doing that. On auditors, in my experience, if they've done well, we're satisfied with them. Fees are about the same across the board. That's really doesn't change much. But did go out one time when we became dissatisfied, but otherwise we stuck with the same group. It's an option.
And their fees, it looked like it was about what it was last year, or it's not really going up?
No, they have not gone up a whole lot. I mean, some for inflation, but not astronomical.
I think it's prudent to look at if it's been 14 years since we've looked at it, we can do that in the next year. I think so, with the new superintendent, that makes sense.
I think so. I think that'd be
I
reasonable.
mean, it's what we did with our attorneys, so.
That's right. I think that'd be reasonable.
Maybe time to look at just see what else is out there. Okay.
Mr. President, I recommend to approve engaging Snow Garrett Williams CPAs for the financial year 24-25 audit report.
Okay, I've got a motion by Nate.
Second.
I got a second from Chief Campbell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Number 13, information item. This is 13A, Decatur High School and McCarroll Middle School update on cell phone policies. And we've got the powers that be strolling up as we speak to go over cell phones.
We do need bodyguards.
Such a fun topic to talk about.
Oh my goodness. So I'm going to ask you, if you would please, since we're talking about cell phones, please take your cell phone and put it in your pocket or your backpack as I make this presentation. And my guard dog, Ms. Schisler here, will be patrolling any area as we talk about it. Actually, I do want to give you a quick update. Our girls are playing their playoff game as we speak. After the first quarter, the score is Decatur 31, Fort Worth Southwest 2.
Ooh, all right.
And I did get that on my cell phone. Yeah, nice. All right, Ms. Schisler and I are here to kind of give you all an update a little bit on the cell phone policies, or the cell phone policy and how we implement it at Decatur High School and McCarroll Middle School, and just kind of where we're at with that. Obviously, it is a hot topic of conversation. It's something that our teachers deal with, and we as administration have really tried to support them as we move forward with going with this. So we'll start with the cell phone policy. What you have in front of you and what's up on the screen is the cell phone policy as is stated in our student handbook, and basically saying that after, that the telecommunication device can be, not, if they're not using it properly, then administration has the ability to confiscate the phone. And basically, this is the policy. It states in the handbook that a parent will have to come pick it up from the principal office for a fee of $15, and then the confiscated telecommunication device are not retrieved by the student. The student's parent will be disposed of after the notice required by the law. The second bullet is the big one, because this states that the district permits students to possess personal cell phones for safety purposes. However, these devices must remain turned off during the instructional day, including during all testing, unless they are being used for approved instructional purposes. And that's where the gray area kind of sits in with the approved instructional purposes. And then this next slide here is what it states in board policy, as basically what it states, that it get with telecommunication devices, we have the ability to confiscate them. And then under instructional use, that basically a student must obtain approval to use the device during the day. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the policy. And basically what we're going to talk about to you today is how the middle school does it, how the high school does it, and how we have really tried to sync this together, meeting the needs of our students, meeting the needs of our teachers, and also listening to our community, and also talking to other districts around and how they are handling cell phones. And so we're just going to kind of give you a brief overview of that, and I'll let Ms. Schisler talk a little bit about the middle school and how they do it there.
So when I started at the I'm short. So when I started at the middle school, wanted to give teachers autonomy in their classrooms, because their classroom is their home, and so we want them comfortable in there, and everyone has different classroom management techniques. And so we wanted them to create their use of taking up or their management of the phones, because some teachers just have no problems with it and others did. So we want to give them that autonomy. Thank you. But as soon as they took it up from the kids, and they were bringing it to the office, that's when all of our consequences would start. But they are expected to have their cell phones turned off when they come in the building, when we're out there greeting them, if they have a phone in their hand, phone in your backpack, and they're like, I know, I'm getting there. But once it comes to us, it's just how it's laid out in our handbook, which is first and second are warnings in the office. Third is that $15 fine, and a student or a parent needs to pick it up. And anyone who does not comply with that rule, it's ISS, but we also have that firm expectations that kids will listen to adults in our building unless they are saying or doing anything that is harming them. So we have those posters up everywhere, all over the building, as does the high school. Mr. Lackey was very kind to share his survey. Thank you. Survey, and so all of our teachers are requiring their phones to be put up in the classroom. What they said since we've implemented it is that we have better communication with parents, or that we need to have better communication with parents about not contacting their own kids during the day. That smartwatches are the issue that we're having, because kids can still text, but that is very hard to micromanage. More consistency between teachers. Some of them are letting them listen to music, but they say it's like in a Starbucks mode where they are writing in class, because we have writing and reading separated. Some of our teachers think they need them at lunch, but that is a very unstructured time, and it's the time that they actually get to communicate and practice talking with others versus having a phone in their face. So for us, we want them to practice that. our students don't know how to conflict resolute together. So it's always, they're bullying me, and we're like, no, that's conflict. You just don't know how to talk through an issue. It's been really great because this year our parents are coming to our defense on our Facebook pages around that are saying, no, that's conflict, that's not bullying. So we know we're making a difference there, which is super great. Some of the things that they gave feedback for me is it is sometimes hard to constantly enforce, and they get tired of wanting to fight it. And those tend to be Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break, when the kids are like, I need a break, I'm ready to get out. They want it applied to the watches, but I think that would be very hard to micromanage. And I also don't want to risk something happening to watches if we're taking it up. I know a lot of our teachers were concerned about taking phones up and something happening to them, and so that's why we wanted them to be in possession of their phone unless it was taken up because they weren't doing it. But the kids are very sneaky. We are having more problems with headphones and people with long hair trying to cover, because they can listen, and if they have a smartwatch, they can kind of cover. So those are more of the things that we're trying to be more aware of. So, yeah.
Can I ask one question? What is our policy during testing on smartwatches?
They can't have them.
They got to put them up.
Yeah, like campus testing or like state testing.
Well, I mean, any of it, just, because it seems that the smartwatch is a concern now, but so I was just curious what we're doing for testing.
I think it probably would depend on the teacher, because on our Chromebooks, we do have the filter that won't let them go look at things. So I felt like it'd probably be the teachers monitoring if they felt like they were looking at their phone or their watch more than they should, that's how they would be monitoring.
But state testing, we don't let them wear them, right?
No, ma'am.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right, the high school, and I'll kind of, Ms. Schisler said, so I sent out a survey to my staff and wanted her staff to be a part of it as well. And the survey basically was just 4 or 5 questions, pretty simple, of just, do you implement it? If you're not implementing it, what's the why? What's the, why not? What's the struggle on it? For me, I wanted to know, because again, the autonomy piece was real big for us. And for us, we went from this year of allowing teachers to have discretion in their classroom to say, okay, we're going to let students, have these out on their desk, or, just turn them over, or we let the teacher decide that. To this year, we told the teacher, listen, when they walk in the classroom, the phone's got to be put up. Now, you as a teacher get to decide that. We're still going to let you determine whether that is in their backpack, or if you want a phone caddy or a pouch system from the standpoint of where you want the kid to put it, let us know, and we'll get that taken care of for you. For my teachers, 76% require the students to put it in their backpacks. The other 24% are doing the phone caddies. And so that was part of the survey that we did. And we also included earbuds, not having earbuds out at any time. And then the difference that we have at the high school as opposed to middle school is we allow students that when they walk out of that classroom during passing periods, we give them the freedom to be on their phone during passing periods. And at lunch, they have the freedom to be on their phone. But during classroom time, again, it is that teacher's time. And if the teacher, again, tells them to put it in their backpack, they're supposed to put it in their backpack. If they're supposed to put it in a phone caddy, they're supposed to put it in a phone caddy. And that's kind of where it's at. Some of the other questions we ask our teachers is, where do you have your students place it, but also what adjustments, changes for next year? What are things working well for you? What are things you need to be doing? And our consequences are the exact same as the middle school to be consistent. Do you implement the DHS cell phone policy requiring students to put up their phones? 100% of the teachers said yes, but they did come, some of them came and found me and said, Mr. Lackey, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. Yes, but I'm struggling at different times and at different places with different students, things like that. And so that's why I felt the survey was important, was for them to be able to give us the feedback and to tell them, and I've said this in many staff meetings that we've had, that I want your honesty in this. I want to know where the struggle is. I want to know where we can support you better. I want to know how we can do this better. So these are some of the comments. I know mine are a little smaller in font. Sorry about that. But again, these are just teacher comments about what changes do you feel need to be implemented. Again, consistency, trying to, some teachers are saying, hey, let's not let them have them at lunch. Let's kind of go with what the middle school is doing of where we go all throughout the day, just to be consistent with that. Better communication to the parents. Some are appreciative of the policy that we put in place this year of trying to say, hey, let's make them put these somewhere. And we feel like we did see with our freshmen coming in, because this is year 2 for y'all. So our freshmen that were 8th graders last year, our teachers that are teaching freshmen, they're like, Mr. Lackey, that's been nice, them coming over and them following. I mean, it's working. That system is working. And so that's where we feel like the consistency, we want to stay with it. And so we feel like for us next year, with this policy, it's only going to get better. And bringing in our ILT, bringing in our teachers, continuing to get this feedback from them. And we've also put out there any other feedback they want to give us. And they were honest. You see there, it's exhausting, it's frustrating. But some of them say, I've seen a positive impact since the policy began. And then some of them are saying, we want to create, students are going to use cell phones the rest of their lives. So we're also trying to give them freedom, especially at the high school level, to be able to handle that and make good choices, but understand when they go into a class that cell phone needs to be put up so the teacher can have full student engagement. So next steps, I'll let Ms. Schisler kind of talk about that.
So we talked about boundaries, and I was in Austin last week for a conference with all kinds of the fun techie stuff. And I went to one session and it talked about having boundaries for your students and what that would look like. So, at the middle school, we're dealing with hormones, social media, first-time cell phones, So for us, we felt that we did not need to add that issue as a whole. And I know when I was there as from assistant principal and then coming in as a principal 4 or 5 years later, our social media issues were like none. The amount of gaggle reports and the anonymous bully reporter we have went to 0 compared to the year before. And just implementing the no cell phone for us from the previous principal, so 22, 23, the first warning that kids got when it came to the office was 129. This year so far, we only had 45 kids have a warning. From 22, 23, a second warning was 30. This year we've only had 6. Third warning with Mr. Nunn was 7, and this year we've only had 1. So we've definitely had a lot better, and I will say it was very hard last year when I implemented it and had very upset parents. And so it was a hard 12 weeks, but it has definitely made a great change. And so we want the kids to have healthy boundaries because parents, unfortunately, y'all don't know what all your kids are exposed to, and you think they're sheltered, but they're not. And it helps us to not have all the freedoms that they are given. So not having the cell phones has definitely helped us with bullying and any kind of social media drama. We've talked about, they talked about implementing more techie nights with our parents and what social media issues can do and what is all coming out. And so we've talked about doing that as well. And having like a tech-free Thursday, tech-free Tuesday, where it's back to old school pen and paper, working on handwriting and, just trying to do consistent between us as well. So.
And I'll step in, you gave your numbers. My numbers for this year for us, our first warning, we've had 36 cell phones that have been brought to the administrative office and gotten the first warning. Second warning is 7, and we've had 0 reach the third warning or the $15 fine. And 0 have also had to be sent to ISS for complete refusal. And so usually when it gets to a point where a student is really struggling with that, I know teachers will get us admin involved, and we'll be able to have a conversation with the student about, hey, is this the route you really want to go with this? For us, we are going to continue to, as admin and in supporting our teachers and hearing them out, but I know consistency is the big thing that I'm hearing from my teachers that what they need in this. And so we'll continue to do that. It may look a little different next year at the high school of everybody may have a cell phone caddy in the classroom. We may limit and really make it of this is what you're going to do in this situation. But I want to work that through with my teachers and have them completely on board with it. Our teachers did a great job of implementing this policy. We were behind the 8 ball a little bit. We weren't able the first 2 weeks of school because we were still getting MacBook devices out. The first 2 weeks of school, we had to let the students be on their phones for their schedules and for instructional purposes. And then 2 weeks in, we had to come in and say, okay, here we go, now put your phones up. And so next year, we're excited about starting this from the very beginning and everybody being on the same page and consistency. So, any questions?
So this is sorry, you want to go? It's a cultural shift.
It is.
And I had asked Brandy about this, and of the numbers you read off, Mr. Lecky, do you know how many of those were freshmen off the top of your head?
I didn't get that far into it.
Okay.
I didn't know. I think it's less. I think more of our sophomores, juniors, and seniors, I think it would be less in this.
Well, I think we're working in the right direction.
We are.
I think for myself, you two need to be on the same page through this, because as they go from middle school and transition into high school, making sure that all of a sudden there's not a Y in the road and they don't know which direction to go, what they're doing with their cell phone. I would just ask that y'all work together. And it sounds like you are. Thank y'all.
You guys, you said that you have talked to other districts. What are you learning from other districts and how they're handling cell phone policies?
Right.
And
So
how
I
they're
would,
dealing
I was
with
at TASA 2 weeks ago and got to go to 2 sessions of principals that were presenting on cell phones. One was Brewer High School, and him and I had a great conversation. And they're doing this year they started the exact same thing that we got going on at Decatur High School. Packer pouch is what they call it, where the student walks in and they either put it in their backpack or they put it in a teacher's phone caddy from that standpoint. And so they had some processes and procedures that they're doing at Brewer that I really liked, that we're some things I'm gonna talk about with my teachers, of the communication piece of the admin picking up the phone quicker and things like that, and how they kind of implemented it the first 3 or 4 weeks they had success with. And so, I talked to Brewer, I talked to Aubrey, I've talked to Brock, principal, I talked to Glen Rose, all these principals I know, and I'm able to text and say, hey, talk to me about how it's going with y'all. All of them are doing pretty much the same thing policy-wise as we are. Now, the one that I talked to that are using the actual pouches, that is Boyd ISD. And so I did talk to them and reached out to them and talked to them about the success, what it's been going for them and how it's been going for them. And then I did reach out to a pouch representative and talked to them and went through how the pouch works, and then got to the cost of it. And stopped right there.
Is there anything you guys see that needs to be changed in policy? I mean, it sounds like y'all are on top of things, so is there anything that you can think of at all?
No, I think it's just
Consistency.
consistency, but having the expectations and just following through and on our parts, and we're pulled in all different directions, so it's really having our trust with our staff and working as a team through our ILT teams and then down through our departments, that we do want what's best for them. We do want our kids learning, and we're going to be there to help support y'all.
See, the board policy as it exists gives them the latitude to do what they need to do, which is excellent support from the board. And what they are doing falls into administrative regulations. How will we enforce this board policy and make it work for our students and our teachers?
I know it's tough, but y'all are doing a great job, so.
It's the teachers that fight.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a challenge at every
They're doing a
school.
great job.
So we appreciate all your hard work
Hey,
staying on
Dr.
top of
Lackey,
that.
real quick. Hey, you mentioned Boyd, and I want to say whenever they did their pouches, I want to say like 6 months after that, they came out and they did a study that
Yes, sir.
their disciplinary reasons related to cell phones were down. I know our numbers, like confiscating kids, are down, but our Do we have anything on like disciplinary related to phone? Is it down?
For us, it would be,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Because just not getting to that last one, where they would get ISS is minimal. So far, we've only had one kid that's gone to the fine, and so I don't even think we've had any kids go to ISS for it this year, so.
I would say, Nate, for us, the disciplinary, for the social media use in the classroom is definitely down. We still have the ones that are using it outside of the classroom that we have to look into and things like that. And I'll echo what Brandy said. We have noticed a uptick in the amount of, we call them gaggles, where kids, when they send something in their email, our system is alerted, and then they let admin know. That has been an uptick in the fact of we are getting more of those gaggles, and we're able to intervene quicker in those situations because students are communicating more through their MacBook and through our email system and less through the phones because they don't have their phones in class. And so it's been a benefit of us. When I say, you get concerned of, well, there's more gaggles, that's not good. Actually, it's good because we're learning more about it because it's going through our system, and our system is able to tell us, hey, this was a wording in an email, or this is something you need to be aware of, and we're able to get on top of it, where a lot of times it was through text or Snapchat, and we'd never see it unless a kid brought it to us. So
I'd be interested to know if you guys are seeing an increase in engagement, in the learning environment, in the conversations that are being held, that where a kid would normally just be, checked out, scrolling. Are you getting participation from those kids that you normally haven't been able to reach?
Yes, but also our classes are very large, so it's,
larger.
yeah, larger. And so it's sometimes, some kids can still hide because they just can't get to all the kids. But engagement overall, I would say yes, is much better. For us, I know like our failure rate is way down. We have the reward party to help with that. But yeah, our engagement definitely up. And my teachers would say the same.
Yeah, I think for us too, it's just that with teachers, getting the team more, getting the students involved, and then also students knowing they can't have their cell phone, they're going here a lot of times. They'll go to that MacBook and they'll be on that. So our teachers managing that piece of saying, hey, close the MacBook. There's no MacBook, there's no phone. This is just us, and this is what I need you to hear, and I need you to see this. And so just managing that piece. But I do think in my, in the survey, I had teachers give good feedback about getting more and more, they're getting more engagement in the classroom with students, so.
Well, I know that it's going to take time. I mean, and the more consistent that all the teachers at both schools can be, and with the turnover, from next year, and you've got middle schoolers coming up and participating, and they've already been, the groundwork has been laid. I know that will steadily improve. So I appreciate the update. Keep up the good work.
Got it. Yep. Appreciate y'all putting your phones up, and hopefully none of y'all had burner phones. Burner phones, that's a whole nother thing. It's a real thing. They walk in and put their burner phone in the pouch, and they keep their other phone in their pocket. They're just bright individuals.
I was
That's
going
what
to
they
say,
are.
we just have some really smart teenagers. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for asking to put this on the agenda, because I learned a lot. So that's good. Okay, moving on, 13B, this is the middle of the year data for 2024, 2025. Dr. Wooten.
Yes, thank you. So you also have a packet in front of you here. You'll be able to read it through the screen up front. I'm just going to kind of skip through because this is the same first part of this presentation that I have for beginning of year, middle, and end. This is the various data sources that we use for pre-K, kindergarten, first and second, all the way straight through, including our CBA data. And so our first up is our pre-K Circle PM. At the beginning of the year, we just have beginning of the year data, but now you'll see your MOY, which is your middle of the year. So you can see where our pre-K kiddos are tracking for reading and for math. And then our text Kia is for kindergarten. And that's where we are for reading and math as well for beginning of the year that you've already seen, and then middle of the year for now. And then off to the side is just our end of the year goal. You'll see in some cases we are very close to it, or we have exceeded it, which is excellent. For first and second grade, we have TPRI or Tejas Lee for our Spanish. And once again, this is our first grade for reading and for math. And then we go into ISIP for our kindergarten. So this is our iStation. This is the tool that we use for this. And so you can see our beginning of the year data and where we are for middle of the year. These are students that are tracking on grade level, which means level 3, 4, and 5. And when you look at 3, 4, and 5, look at that like approaches, meets, and masters. 3 being approaches, 4 being meets, 5 being masters. And then you can just see that the data is depicted in different ways. So your different variations of green, once again, is where you want to be. And obviously we're looking at those kiddos that are in red and orange, or 1s and 2s, to track those for intervention. And this is our first grade. And reading's up at the top, math is at the bottom. In second grade, our reading and math.
Just out of curiosity, on the ISIP reading for a percentage that goes now.
So referring to our first grade with RAN in particular, we have looked at that, and like the interventionists that are, we have some interventionists over there, and of course our reading coach and facilitator is also looking at that. I think in part it's getting a little bit more complex as first grade can go. I also think in K1 and 2 in particular, I think a lot of the content that's in there is pretty similar and builds a little bit more, but I will say with Spanish, it's just you're understanding 2 languages and you're kind of transferring that over. And I think that part's a bit of a struggle, but I also, in looking at the content of where they dipped, some of it was content that they got in another question and they just didn't get it in the next question, but it was similar content. So I personally question like how much is more of a language kind of thing in that particular scenario. I'm not saying all of it, but I do think there's a component of it.
This is first grade reading in Spanish is what it says here. So just clarify, these are Spanish speakers that are learning English, or these are? Is this Spanish being tested in Spanish?
These are Spanish speakers that are learning.
They're being tested in English, or they're being tested in Spanish?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's both. They get both. They're tested in Spanish and English. For first grade. And then our second grade, you can see where it starts to kind of recoup. You also don't have as many that are testing just in Spanish anymore. Now you got your English. So in third grade, you look at the reading portion of it, and you can see that we're tracking where we are. And for math, you can see where there's some dips, and we did look at this with my coaches here. And part of it is, so when you go through in K1 and 2, there's a lot of just similarity. It's a little bit of a building, but kind of the same concepts. But when you start getting into third grade, you start getting into fourth grade, and you start getting into fifth grade, the math portion in particular is new concepts. So we're not necessarily building so much. Now it's an introduction of new concepts. And so that's where part of the dip is, because with Eureka, which will be Bluebonnet next year, with the Eureka piece of it, the scope and sequence doesn't necessarily align with what ISIP is testing. So I'll give you an example. For instance, in third grade, you see a lot more of your financial literacy at the middle of the year. You see more fractions, and that's not necessarily the scope and sequence with Eureka. And it bounces back by the end of the year because everything comes full circle. Does that make sense? So that's where part of that dip is, because we did pull it to look at some of the questions and the things that were where some of the kids missed it, and it was kind of universally missed because it just hasn't been covered yet. Third grade's my background, so that's why I brought up third grade. Fourth grade, same thing. Here's our reading. And then with our math. And that's where I think with fourth grade being the most significant. Question? We're just talking? Okay. Fifth grade, this is our reading. And then with math. And so the next portion of the assessments, because obviously we look at ISIP, but we're also looking at our CBAs. And so this is the CBA number 2. So first column in green is the first CBA, and then this is the CBA for CBA number 2. Standard, essentially when you see the standard there, these are the TEKs that were assessed, and then standard just means that's about 10 to 15-ish questions. When you get into extended, that means you're looking at 15 to 20. And part of the reason we do both, it just helps with endurance. Like, that gives them a little bit more questions to have to answer, while at the same time making sure we understand the amount of time that's used for tests. And then I just broke it down so you could kind of see the different standards that are tested, because with the CBAs, this isn't an apples to apples deal. It's all new standards and expectation, or standards and TEKs that we're looking at. And then this is our social studies. And you can see just how many TEKs are covered with social studies, because covering all of history is quite extensive. And then this is the math portion. Which I will say, with Eureka, this being our third year, we're starting to see some pretty definitive growth as they're moving forward with some of this, because first year they were learning a new curriculum. Second year they were still kind of learning and adjusting, but got their feet wet. They were a little more comfortable, and now third year it's kind of taken hold. And then this is our science, which is PhD at the elementary grades. And I just put in some of the guidelines in there so you could kind of see some of the parameters for the CBAs. Questions with that?
I'm going to ask a dumb question. Do we take the CBA for a grade? Did I miss that?
We do not. The CBA is intended to be a tool for teachers so that they knew what TEKs were the kiddos mastering, and what TEKs do we need to go back and revisit. So it is not intended to be a grade.
Is there any thought as to taking, I mean, I can see both sides of it. When I was at Keller, we took CBA for a grade, and, I can see how high schoolers might not
Yes, high schoolers are not necessarily
Always
the
put
the
their-
biggest fans of not taking a grade for it. And I see both, I mean, I honestly do see
You
both
do-
sides.
you see what I'm saying.
I do see what you're saying. I do, and I understand. And it's more of probably a bit of a personal opinion, though there are definitely teachers that feel the same way as I do with it. I just don't want us to lose focus of it being a tool to go back and reform practice as opposed to a checkbox. Like, that's the big hang up. But I listen to that conversation often. And there are pieces of it where I'm starting to sway slightly in some cases.
Can we take the math one for a grade?
I think that's a. I might need to table that one, and we can talk more. But
I would interject that I think one of the important pieces that the CBAs can afford a district, and in almost every district I know has some form of a curriculum-based assessment that they do themselves, and that informs an alignment between the curriculum itself, the instructional strategies inside the curriculum, and the assessments that are aligned to that. So it really is a very, when there are disparities or things might go down, then it behooves the district to go back and look at what was the alignment between the scope and sequence, what was taught, the resources used, and the assessment itself. Are all of those in alignment? So there's, identifying, looking at data is useful. Doing something because of the data is more powerful. That's the real value. So they're very, very much aware of me saying, so what? So what? We did this. Now how do we improve?
And I will say with the CBAs, I think the conversations that can happen within PLCs, I think the conversations that are happening with campus principals and administration, this gives very clear, specific, they know this or they don't know this. And then the conversation then becomes, well, then how are we going to revisit it? What are we going to look at? What does intervention need to look like? Because your kiddos shouldn't be in the same intervention group, time and time again, and switching that up. So all of those pieces are important. And you'll know with the taper, that's data that's a year later, essentially. And now we have something that's current.
I think it's important, too, for the board. I mean, we're seeing a lot of detail here. We're looking at the micro, and we should be looking at the macro. A lot of this isn't for us. A lot of this is for you guys, and y'all are competitive enough. But when we're seeing your beginning of year and middle of year scores, we're hitting those, and that's all I need to see. And you guys are in the weeds. For us to look at this data one afternoon, it's a lot here, and it's more than just looking at a little bit of data and making a decision on that. So I appreciate the CBAs not tested, because I think y'all put enough pressure on yourselves already, and I think it changes the way we do testing, is if it's being tested or not, the way that you guys are using this information. It's up to y'all, obviously, but I appreciate the macro overview of this.
I could argue that a little bit on the testing side, just because we just talked about kids having burner phones and being smart. And I think back to whenever I was in high school, if I knew that none of these were for a grade, I probably wouldn't put forth the effort that I probably should have. So if we're using the CBAs for data for our teachers to curate individual stuff for kids who need the work, and they're not putting forth the effort that they really need to, are some teachers wasting their time on getting kids where they need to be whenever they may already be there?
I think it's a good point. And it's not the first time I've heard we don't want to waste our time with the, doing this assessment and not taking a grade. I think we would just have to have some really intentional conversations about the testing and the purpose, and are we still going to go back and do what it was intended for, which was to guide instruction, whether that is to celebrate what we're doing right or to revisit what obviously it was missed. And is there a happy medium in there? I'm sure there is. Absolutely. No. No, and I don't know that we're ever going to find a curriculum that aligns perfectly with some of these assessment tools. But like, for instance, Eureka, it does not align perfectly with iStation. And so that's where your math difference is going to be. Like what I said with third grade, like there are some things that ISIP covered, like in third grade with financial literacy and more of the fractions, that's not where Eureka is right now in third grade, but it will balance out by the end because all the TEKS are covered, because all the curriculum is TEKS based. It's just the scope and timing of some things are off. And some things it is spot on, but it's not 100%. No, sir. Any other questions? No?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on to 13C, Transportation Report, Mr. Mazak.
Good evening, Dr. Rue, President Schultz, Board of Trustees. Thank you for allowing me to be here again. I just want to take a few minutes to go over the district effectiveness report for transportation. This is for the past 5 months because of the data collection that we're using in our new CMMS to give this report. Our mission statement at the Transportation Department is to make sure all the kiddos get on a bus that's safe, get returned home that's safe. The leadership in our Transportation Department is myself, Virginia Perez, Tammy Slimp, and Martha Navarrete. Those are the ones that make up our immediate team to get things done. Just looking quickly at the DISD school bus fleet summary, the max age of our bus is 20 years old, and that one just got recently retired, as mentioned already. The average age of our bus is 10.5 years old. Our spare bus ratio is 5%. We maintain around 37 buses. That includes the blue buses, the small buses, and the route buses. All buses are equipped with radios, and all buses have air conditioned. Our new system here, allows us to look at our effectiveness on keeping cost of what bus is actually eating into our O&M. So here's just the top 10 I listed on here, and just shows us at a glance what we've spent on every bus. And that allows us to plan for the future and see if this bus needs replaced or what the issue is and try to get it fixed the best we can. The responsibilities that the Transportation Department has is, there's a lot of safety training that goes on. There's a lot of meeting bus inspections. We manage the students and the ridership. They prepare every day for that. They communicate with the parents. We schedule staffing. We collaborate with the schools, and we even do field trips and extracurricular activities. That's part of our responsibility. And we have a pretty good team that takes care of this. Right now we have around 24 route drivers, 3 sped monitors, 2 CDL trainees, cover drivers. We have 2, 1 dispatch, 1 assistant, 1 director, and 2 mechanics at the shop. And they run the entire transportation department.
Are you fully staffed right now?
Yes.
You are? Okay.
Well, since you approved the 4 new buses, no.
No, well,
Yes,
that's
sir.
a good problem to have, though. But before that, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
I believe
good.
we are. Yep. All right, our daily riders, our average daily riders is about 828 kiddos that come on and off the bus. Our route miles this year are around 173,000, field trip miles, white fleet miles, and so total miles for our entire fleet is around 221,000 miles. That's a lot of miles. That is year to date. Yeah, that's not the 5-month. So if you look at our route buses, we have about 23 of them. Activity buses is 6. Field trip buses, we have 1. 2 spare buses, which we put one of those back into commission today because we had an issue with the engine. Small buses 2, and repaired or decommissioned buses is 3. And one of those is in the shop and needs a new motor. We also in our new system to track efficiency, we looked at how many field trips, how many extracurricular activities are we actually going on. We can look at that per school, per request, and I just listed the top few here. Looks like the high school's pretty much eaten up most of it, and then baseball for our extracurricular transportation requests that come through our system. If we look real quickly at just a 5-month transportation cost, we can see that fuel is our main cost that's eating up the O&M, which is normal. We have bus equipment, bus engine, what we spent, transportation supplies, shop supplies. If you look at the others, which is 17% of the cost there, we break that down. The big eater is bus training, tires and wheels, general operating expense, and it just goes down and down from there for what we're spending on each part in transportation. If you look at the comprehensive operations of our effectiveness, we've had about 342 issues or requests for maintenance, and planned maintenance, about 42 requests in the last 5 months for transportation. Also in our comprehensive operations, if you want to look at our issues and requests that we're having, the main one is bus equipment, 125 issues and requests that we've done. And then it goes, you can see the list there. Bus engine is our second biggest one. If you look at the others, 21% breaks it down even to that. Bus training, transportation supplies, tires and wheels. Those are how many requests and issues that we've had, and we can break that down per bus. And to end, we've had 90% of our completed requests, our issues, on time in the transportation department. 22 tickets right now, or 6% are open. And we've had 5% were overdue but completed. And that's our efficiency report for transportation. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. So some of the sports teams get dropped off really early before games. And sometimes they have to sit for a while due to buses having to get back to run routes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a personnel issue? Is that a fleet issue? Will that be solved with the addition of 4 new buses? How does that?
I think that the issue that we're having is that the route drivers have to be back at a certain time for routes, so they're dropping off early to make sure they can get back to their route, and then coming back maybe to pick them up later. And some of our coaches have CDL Class B license where they can do that, but not every department has that. It would be nice if every department had somebody who could do that for the bus, for the blue buses, but we really have to get the kiddos home in time, so we try to schedule that way. Yes, personnel. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the most detail I think I think I can remember ever have seen, so I appreciate all the work in providing that to us.
Hey, real quick, Kyle.
Yeah.
Hey, on here is the DISD baseball complex. Is that shipping kids from the high school to the baseball and softball fields?
The requests come from saying that we have a baseball event, and that's what it comes under in our system. So those requests, how many of them there were there, came because they needed baseball transportation.
Anywhere then.
Yeah, it could be from anywhere.
Have we started baseball yet? This is just for this year, right?
Yeah, they've started.
Last 5 months.
We got,
Yep. There's
I
about
think they just had their first.
that's got to have softball in there
19.
too, right?
Yeah, softball, the whole complex.
Softball, okay.
Yeah.
We have a bus that goes from the high school every day, and it drops off swimmers at Jittenwise and baseball players at the baseball diamond area.
Okay.
That maybe, I don't know if that's in that request or not, but that's, we have swimmers and baseball players ride that bus.
Okay.
Okay.
Those requests come in from our 530 customers, and they request a bus. We just make sure that it's safe, filled up, got a driver, and where they want it, they put the budget code on there, and we track it all. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. 13D, financial information. Mrs. Watson.
You have your financials in front of you for the month of January. If you'll notice, our tax revenue, we're up almost $1 million, a little over $1 million from last year, this time last year. which is wonderful. So we're sitting at 69%, almost 70% of our revenue has been collected so far. That's up from 63% last year. So we had a good push for the end of January. Expenditure-wise, you were looking at spending right at 42%, which is up about 5.5% from last year. That would be consistent with, this is a very much tighter budget than what we've had. And as legislature keeps going, this number will just get tighter and tighter on us. If you look over to food service right now, we're sitting at a $200,000 loss. We did pay for the tables that have been in at the McCarroll Middle School. So those are in, and hopefully this number will just start growing larger and larger because we need to spend it down over the next few months. And then on debt service, you'll notice that we've already collected $7 million for the bond payment, and we will make our first bond payment for this year on Wednesday. So next month you'll start seeing some activity in the debt service. So, any questions?
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. No other discussion, then we move to adjournment. We are adjourned at 7:46 p.m.